Education has long been considered a key to job security and career advancement. At the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, programs in business have always been among the most popular on campus, and that trend continues. I'm Chuck Cantrell, and this is Metro Campus, the UTC Report. Today we're discussing entrepreneurship and business programs at UTC. We'll learn how the campus is celebrating Chattanooga's entrepreneurial spirit and opening the door to a next generation of business leaders. So come back from Metro Campus, the UTC Report. Hello and welcome back to Metro Campus, the UTC Report. I'm Chuck Cantrell. Pick up any newspaper or magazine or tune into any news program and you'll find someone talking about business. The national economy has surpassed terrorism and the war in Iraq as the most important issue in this year's presidential race. From corporate scandals and the world economy to finding a job and household budgeting, we all have to take care of business. Joining me to discuss the College of Business at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga is Dr. Richard Cassavant, Dean of the UTC College of Business. Dr. Cassavant has been a faculty member at UTC since 1977, where he taught in the marketing department. He was named Dean of the College of Business in 2000. And in your spare time, you serve on the county commission. I don't know how you manage to do everything. Dr. Cassavant, welcome to Metro Campus.
It's good to be here, Chuck.
Tell me a little bit, just in broad terms, about the College of Business. What kind of programs do you offer, and where some of your distinctions are?
Well, Chuck, as you said at the outset, it's a popular program. We have about 30% of the students on campus, both undergraduate and graduate, 4 of the 5 largest departments. It's a program that has 7 undergraduate majors, and we also have an MBA, a Master of Business Administration, and an EMBA, Executive Masters, that we recruit for each year, and I should tout that, along with a Master's of Accountancy. So I think we have the programs that fit the area, and certainly the students are drawn to them. And as we grow, we seem to get our share of the students of the growth segment. It's a program that's come along as over the years, and last year Business Week recognized us as one of the top 100 business schools, undergraduate business schools in the United States.
Highest in Tennessee.
And the highest in Tennessee. And Princeton Review recognized our graduate program. So we're real proud of that. And of course, we can talk accreditation and the importance of that and how many schools in Tennessee have that, and it's only a few recognized by the business accrediting body, but I guess that's inside baseball. So
well, but it's important to students and employers when you're looking at the value of a degree and what that means for that graduate. Right. Why do you think business is so popular?
Well, for one thing, I think our students want to know that they have opportunity out there when they graduate. I will point out that over 50% of our courses, required courses or elective, have to be outside the College of Business. So I think the students are prepared both in terms of a liberal education and a practical one. Taking a business excuse me, degree is not what it used to be. Back in my day, in the 60s when I graduated, 1 out of every 4 of us went to work for a large corporation. And today that's less than 1 out of every 17. And one of those areas, of course, is entrepreneurship, where you start your own business. And that may not occur right out of school, but it's the side of business that established corporations have to look at too, because in order to stay around, you need to be innovative and redesign your corporation really quite frequently.
I know that the college talks about the entrepreneurial spirit in Chattanooga, that we're sort of a community based on entrepreneurship, and I want to get to that in just a second. But I want to ask you a question about the entrepreneurship academic program very quickly. It seems like the notion of an entrepreneur might be a little bit of a maverick and going out and charting their own course. And an entrepreneurship degree program seems very standard and very common course, if I might add that. Yeah. How do you sort of grab that and keep that creative industrial spirit, but hone it into a degree program that's sort of standardized?
Well, there's some question how much of leadership, for example, you can teach and how much of entrepreneurship you can teach, and can it be taught? The answer is yes and no. I'm not sure you can teach someone to be a leader, but you can talk about what makes a good leader. I'm not sure you can teach someone to be an entrepreneur, but by example, you can show what entrepreneurs have done and how they got started, plus give them a very liberal dose of accounting and finance and marketing, management, so they don't make mistakes on the job, and it's not a learning experience in the sense that you're learning how to read a balance sheet or something of that sort.
And speaking of examples, you have the Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, which you just recently had your induction ceremony. What is the Hall of Fame? We're going to meet some of the new inductees here in a few minutes, but what is the Hall of Fame? Why did you think it was important for the College of Business to establish it?
It's our signature event, and we've had Hall of Fame now for 9 years. And it's literally a hall. We have the 36 pictures up now, our portraits with a biographical sketch. And as I said, examples or models are very important to look at how someone else did it. Doesn't mean you can use that pattern and repeat it. But certainly the Hall of Fame is a celebration of entrepreneurship, which has made this city and has made this country. Indeed, most of the 90% of the people that have a wealth of over $1 million are self-made, and that's a percentage that didn't used to be just 2 or 3 decades ago.
And I tell you what, we're going to have to take a break here, and in just a minute we're going to meet some of the new inductees in the Hall of Fame. And I tell you, it's very impressive when you walk down that hall. It's a who's who in Chattanooga's industrial past, present, and future. It's just amazing, the names in that. We come back, we'll continue our discussion on business programs at UTC and hear more about the college's efforts to promote and celebrate entrepreneurship. Hello and welcome back to Metro Campus, the UTC Report. I'm Chuck Cantrell, and we're continuing our discussion on business programs at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Joining us now are George Petway and Tony Vest, who represent Chattanooga's entrepreneurial heritage and spirit, and we're part of this year's celebration at the Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame induction. Both of you, welcome to Metro Campus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations on being inducted into the Hall of Fame. For our viewers who may not be familiar with, tell me a little bit, and I'm going to play ping pong here. You're both going to get a chance to answer these questions. I'll start with you, Mr. Petway. Tell us a little bit about your business and how it got started and how your involvement has involved with it.
Well, my business today is retirement, which is at the end of a company I started about 20 years ago called River Associates, an investment firm. And I was with them until early 2000. My son said, "Dad, everybody knows you're retired except the payroll department, and I'll notify them for you." But actually, I was telling Lisa Flint with UTC that the company's done a lot better since I've retired. And it's an investment operation, a private equity group that purchases small to medium-sized companies. We try to work with them, build them up over a period of time, and then hopefully sell them for more than we pay for them. Typically, we're an investor 3 to 8 years. This has gone extremely well since '89. Our returns have been fantastic for our investors. They're limited partners, the investors, and we have a pool of funds that we tap to purchase the companies with. And it's been a very exciting, fun, and challenging operation. And like I say, they're doing extremely well. and are poised for another 20 years of significant investments.
Great. Mr. Vest.
Well, my original firm was a nuclear engineering services firm, and I still consider myself an engineer. Sold that operation in 1996. We had achieved quite a bit of growth. We were the 30th fastest growing company and privately held company in the United States at that time, as recognized with the Inc. 500. More recently, after I tried to retire and wasn't very successful at that, we got involved in a real estate investment development, a very large development near Jackson Hole, Wyoming, called Teton Springs, and that has been very challenging. That was about 2001, and today is doing quite well. And there were several spin-offs that, a construction company that builds homes and a real estate company. So we've been varied from a nuclear engineer to a developer, although I prefer to be still an engineer.
I understand. Let me ask you both again. I'm sure that running a business and building a business, different businesses, but you both have faced challenges over the years. What has been the greatest challenge to overcome in both of your business endeavors?
Tony?
No fair.
I promised I wasn't going to ask calculus. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Although the engineer probably could have answered this.
Yeah, maybe. Probably the biggest challenge has just been, in my case, has always been timing. I entered the nuclear business at a time when, right after 3 Mile Island, when the nuclear business was sort of in a free fall, and managed to get involved in real estate development right as 9/11 came about, and so that was not a good time for quite a while. It's been a challenge with timing, and then obviously every entrepreneur faces the challenge of funding to fund the operation, get the startup going, and if you get into a development situation and you get behind the curve on funding, that's an extreme challenge. So those and any business also has the challenge of finding and recruiting good, motivated people with good attitudes to work with you and to be part of the team.
Mr. Petway, if I might, I'm going to ask you sort of a follow-up to that question, because you mentioned something that I'm imagining would be very much of an influence on the investment world. And there's so many things that affect the economy and people's attitudes toward investments. How do you prepare for things like a 9/11 and a war and the Middle East and oil prices, and things are always changing? How do you keep a company stable during those kind of times?
Well, of course, Chuck, you're talking about macro impacts, very large scale impacts. When you take it down to the individual business, the impact is totally different. Today's climate, everyone's talking about we're on the verge of recession and so forth. Our companies that we're actually investing with are doing fine. Your problem is in the housing and the credit markets, and the credit's probably more perception than a real problem, and hopefully the emotional side of this will turn to the realistic side, that the economy basically underneath is okay, and assuming we can keep nurturing the free enterprise system, we'll pull out.
So it's dealing with those perceptions.
That's right.
As much of a challenge as anything.
Right.
I tell you what, we're going to have to take a break here in just a few minutes, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame, your induction, what it means to you, and I'll give you a little heads up to think about what kind of messages you might give to these young entrepreneurs as role models for them. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation about the UTC's College of Business and the Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame. Hello and welcome back to Metro Campus. I'm Chuck Cantrell. Today we're discussing the College of Business at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and its entrepreneurship programs. And I mentioned earlier in the show that you were both recently inducted into the Entrepreneurship Hall of Fame. Tell me a little bit about what that honor means to both of you. And we'll start with you, Mr. Pettway.
Well, I really didn't know until I had a couple people mention it and say, you know, your business peers have picked you for this award. And I thought maybe it was an election of something to do with the faculty. But being actual business peers out there that gave Tony and I this kind of award, it means quite a bit more than I realized. And it's an honor, and I hope I can repay UTC and some efforts to help this program.
Mr. Fess.
Well, as George said, it's a recognition by your peers, and so that's an incredible honor. I frankly didn't even know it existed until I got a call to come down and meet with some of the fellows who had nominated me for this, and then I went up and visited the Hall of Fame, and it's you know, it's a little bit overwhelming to think that you can be there with some of the great names in Chattanooga. So it's just it's a terrific honor.
I tell you what, it is a very impressive place to go and just read. It really is the history of Chattanooga, yeah, and the history of business in our community, and the names and the businesses that have come from Chattanooga. It's so impressive, and I know there are so many people in Chattanooga that really aren't aware of it. As a new inductee, you've now been established, as Dr. Kasavec was talking earlier, about an example for young entrepreneurs and young business students. If they came to you and they said, you know, what are some of the things that we need to think about, or what kind of advice would you give to young people who are thinking about creating their own business, becoming entrepreneurs?
Well, I'll take that, Tony. I just was talking with Lisa earlier. I would be very interested in looking at the students' ideas and try to give some input on whether this looks like a feasible. They have to write a term paper, I believe, that before they get their degree, a business plan around some kind of business they'd like to start. And I'd love to look at that. And Lisa's got my email address, and I'd be glad to give some input on what I thought that they're missing, or what they've got hold of. I look forward to maybe trying that.
You know, I guess I could just offer some advice, and one of the first things I'd say is be very focused on what it is you're going to do, and really zero in on that, and you know, you just have to give up a lot of other things, but if you want to be a success at something, you have to really focus on it. And the second thing I would say is you know, understand that you're still in the world with people, and you have to treat people the way you'd want to be treated, your employees, your customers, and just keep those things in mind, and I think you're off to a good start. I could list about 100 things, but those would be two that jump out. And
what's it take to be successful?
Tony said it last night. Don't quit. Hang in there and see your idea through. And if you leave before you finish. You lose.
Yeah, I talked about that last night, and you know, the good thing is you never, if you don't quit, you never lose. You get to decide when you lose or when you give up on something. And if you've got a good idea and it's working, or you think it will work, then keep at it, and don't do the same thing over and over. Learn from your mistakes and adjust, but don't quit.
Is starting your own business a harder path than perhaps just working in an established company? Or
I've started out in General Electric company, and I would say it depends on the individual. Obviously, if you like structure and you don't want to worry about the bigger picture, I guess a big company is just fine. I do worry about the bigger picture. I do worry about my place in it, and so I would say that that's more comfortable to me to be in my own business. So it depends on the individual.
I think that I also started with a larger company, and without that exposure, I don't know if had seen the big picture, but certainly working for myself and trying to build a business is a lot more enjoyable. But I believe, in my case, I needed that large company mentality to understand all the different facets of business.
I tell you what, we're going to have to end here in just a few seconds. So just a very quick one question. Do you think that this honor now will make you be more involved in the College of Business at UTC? Will you think you'll talk to students, go to future classes and things like that quickly? Or
I spoke with Lisa earlier, and I think that would be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, Mr. Vest?
Oh yeah, I look forward to interacting with students and to the future.
Great, thank you very much. That's all the time we have for Metro Campus. Remember, you can always find more information by visiting UTC website at www.utc.edu. Thanks for watching.